Hey, how's it going, everyone? Just back again with another lesson. This one is it's amazing. We're going to contrast two accounts: one in Deuteronomy 21 of the rebellious son, and one in John 8, of the woman caught in adultery. And then I'll extrapolate that out, to the last days and how important it is to understand this, these two accounts, and how they're similar in a lot of ways and then different also. So Deuteronomy 21:18-21 reads that if a man has a stubborn and rebellious son who will not obey the voice of his father or the voice of his mother, and though they discipline him, will not listen to them. That's in verse 18, 666. This is God's left-hand side. You can tell them whatever you want, about God and, try and build up their faith. They just won't listen, okay? They're programmed to be this way. They have a reprobate mind. Verse 19, then his father and his mother shall take hold of him and bring him out to the elders of the city, at the gate of the place where he lives. So God wants it out in the public. And they shall say to the elders of the city, this our son is stubborn and rebellious. He will not obey our voice. He is a glutton and a drunkard. Okay. Then all the men of the city shall stone him to death with stones. So you shall purge the evil from your midst, and all Israel shall hear and fear. Okay. And so God wants it to be like an example, so other people can learn to not do that, or else they'll experience that. So that's the way the law was set, for that to happen, okay? And then so John 18 is this exact thing, except it's not a rebellious son. In this case, it's an adulterous woman. And then the elders of the city is now Christ is there, so he's the, quote, elder making the decision. And then in this case, it said here, then all the men of the city shall stone him. So the elders are not doing it. They get all the men to do it. And then those men in this case would be the Pharisees and the Sadducees in this account in John 8. So those three characters it's updated, okay? And then let's see what happens, okay? And we learn quite a bit, from this very, very famous passage. John 8, 1-11. But Jesus went to the Mount of Olives. Early in the morning, he came again to the temple. All the people came to him, and he sat down and taught them. The scribes and the Pharisees brought a woman who had been caught in adultery, and placing her in the midst, they said to him, Teacher, this woman has been caught in the act of adultery. Now in the law, Moses commanded us to stone such women. So what do you say? Notice how Christ is teaching, okay? These other people, these scribes and Pharisees, they're just trying to start stuff, okay? They bring her out, they're trying to embarrass her. They're trying to, quiz Jesus and all that kind of pop quiz and all that kind of stuff. And we see that with God's left-hand side. I see it everywhere. Okay, their job is basically to embarrass you. And then that's what you see on YouTube with the truth community and everywhere and in the world. And so it's all the same. Okay, it's the same spirits that were back then doing this. They don't have a genuine care for that woman or the law or Jesus or anybody. Okay, just know that. Now in the law of Moses, Moses commanded us to stone such women. So what do you say? This they said to test him, that they might have some charge to bring against him. Jesus bent down and wrote with his finger on the ground. And as they continued to ask him, he stood up and said to them, let him who is without sin among you be the first to throw a stone at her. And once more he bent down and wrote on the ground. But when they heard it, they went away one by one, beginning with the older ones, and Jesus was left alone with the woman standing before him. Jesus stood up and said to her, Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you? She said, No one, Lord. And Jesus says, neither do I condemn you. Go, and from now on, sin no more. Okay, so those two interactions are exactly the same. Just know that, okay? The outcome appears to be very different, but it's actually exactly the same. Two righteous judgments occurred, okay? And just be aware of that, okay? So let's explain what happened here. In this situation, Jesus ultimately knows that these people are here just to trap her, okay? So they're committing the greater sin. So he's not going to go and side with them, okay? Because he's very aware of what's going on here and that kind of thing. So that's first and foremost, that's the case. But what happens here, Jesus is honoring what happened in Deuteronomy 21, because like I said, he's the, quote, elder in this interaction, in this encounter. But his request here is that the people that are going to go and throw the stones, I want to make sure that they're righteous, because Christ is righteous, okay? So he doesn't want people going to administer the punishment that are less righteous than the person who's about to be punished, okay? Look at the world that we live in right now. All these people, these government leaders, are prosecuting attorneys, all that, they're disgusting people, okay? And they're prosecuting other people who maybe they're not even as, unrighteous as they are, okay? And so Christ he has a brain, okay, unlike the Pharisees and the scribes and the people that are teaching the Bible today, every single one of them. And so he's not going to set up a situation here where she's going to pay for her sin, which he acknowledges that is definitely a sin. And he's not going to make her pay at the hands of people that are more disgusting, okay, than she is potentially. So, and himself, the judge himself. So he's like, let's make sure, we got the right people here. So you can throw the stone, but, as long as you haven't sinned, go for it. Okay. And there have been people in the Bible who are declared to be very, very righteous and even perfect. So it's not new, in human history at all. Daniel, Moses, Job, all these people, these great men of faith, Abraham, okay, they're not sinners, okay, and that kind of thing. So they'd be more than able to do this kind of thing, So just know that, okay? So he did do exactly what was happening in Deuteronomy 21, except he just made a small provision and said the people that are going to throw the stone, I want to make sure that they're righteous, okay? And so just know that when Christ himself is bringing the judgment, okay, he comes with righteous people, always, okay? And same thing in Genesis 18 with Sodom and Gomorrah, okay? He's bringing two holy people, holy men. If you can understand, that's Moses and Elijah, okay? The two witnesses. And so whenever he's administering the judgment himself and he's the judge making the decision, he's still going to, destroy, but he's going to do it with righteous people, okay? He couldn't find any here. In John 8, they all went away. So now it's up to his decision to decide, is Christ going to start hurling stones at her? He could have, and it would have been righteous to do that. No one would have had any problem with that from the law's perspective, okay? But he said here, neither do I condemn you, go from now on and sin no more, okay? And then we understand that God is able to do that, okay? According to Romans 9:15, for he said to Moses, I will have mercy on whom I will have mercy, and I will have compassion on whom I will have compassion. It's up to him to decide, okay? And we can't understand the logic why he does that, but in this numerology, 9 plus 15 is 24, 44, God's the elect. So all the people in the Bible know that, and I just posted a lesson on Maccabees, they know that their punishments are a result of their own sin, ultimately God's judgments, and they accept it, okay? So they realize, as being God's children, that anything that's happened to them, God did it to them, and then it's a judgment from him, okay? And the people that do it, they're going to have their final destruction at the end, okay? In the final wrath of God. And so they're not going to get away with it either, but it's ultimately to prune those people, God's right-hand side. And so they're very aware of that, okay? And then so Christ decided in this situation, in John 8, I suspect that woman, if she goes and does the things that he says, go and sin no more, then she's very likely on God's right-hand side, okay? And so he had compassion on her. And then that person, that son in Deuteronomy 21, they tried everything with the guy, and he wouldn't listen, so that's very likely somebody on God's left-hand side, so it's righteous, okay, to do that, and that kind of thing. So just know that those two encounters are exactly the same, but there's a group that are going to receive, hopefully we're in that group, will receive, like it says, mercy and compassion, okay, from God himself, if he's the one who's deciding what's going to happen, directly. But also at the same time, don't be surprised in Deuteronomy 21, that applies to us as well, okay, from an earthly context, that, when we are sinning, God is going to use other people to prune us, hopefully to get us to stop, and so like I read in John 8, so nothing worse happens to us, that kind of thing. So just know that, okay? So Christ raised the bar. The court setting was exactly the same setup, except he was the judge now, okay? So he wanted his courtroom to be a certain way. So he has more righteousness, so he increased the righteousness of the people who are to be given out the punishment. And then he also, being in the courtroom, increased the compassion, okay, like I read here in Romans 9:15, okay? So that's the courtroom, okay? And this is the courtroom we want to be involved in, okay? Don't get involved with all these other people, okay? Because they're just there to embarrass you, fundamentally. That's their job of God's left-hand side, and they're out of their mind. Matthew 5:17-20, do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. So what Christ did in John 1:8 is the fulfillment of the law, okay? And he exercised Romans 9:15. So just know that, okay? If whatever judgment that he's going to prescribe is going to be the most righteous thing, okay, that could ever be administered, okay? And he's going to take all information into account, okay, before he does it. But when he does destroy, know that it's with righteous people. Okay, in the last days, this is why people like End Time Teacher can't understand that there's no way that people like him or GMS or Sakari and all these monsters can be the two witnesses. That's absolutely disgusting to think that God would use people like that to be the two witnesses, which have an incredible amount of power. And then their job is to administer the plagues in Revelation 16. So when God brings the people, quote unquote, throwing the stones, he brings righteous people, okay? Because why would he then go against what he said in John 8? Okay, those without sin go and cast the first stone. Moses and Elijah are going to be casting a lot of quote unquote stones. Read Revelation 16. So they're going to be righteous men. Okay, understand that. That's why those people don't understand the Bible. You know, they're just actors fundamentally. But that's absurd to think that God would then start remixing everything that he's taught, which is consistent, Deuteronomy, John, to the end, Revelation, he started remixing it. Okay, no, God's the same yesterday, today, and forever, okay? And so just know that. That's why I know for a fact anybody who teaches anything different about the two witnesses than what I teach is Antichrist. If you think you're one of the two witnesses, whoever's hearing this, you're Antichrist. Unless, you know, you're Moses and Elijah, which obviously they're not here. So just know that, okay? So when Christ is there, he's going to set up the courtroom the same way. And he's still going to judge without a doubt, because we see countless number of verses where Christ is going to return and destroy a lot of people. Okay, but guess what he's going to use to do that? Righteous people. The Bible even says he's going to do it by the labor of the law. Okay. And so it's always a righteous judgment. Okay. 2 Ezra 13:38. And shall lay before them their evil thoughts and their torments wherewith they shall begin to be tormented, which are like unto a flame, and he shall destroy them, listen to this, without labor by the law, which is like unto me. Okay. And so the law is righteous. Okay. And Christ is righteous. So don't think for a second God's going to remix what he's done. Okay. The two witnesses in Revelation 11, I was told on January 1st, 2020, that those are the two men in Acts 1:10-11, and you bank on that. Okay. Anything else is Antichrist, okay? And those two men are righteous men, okay? They were there when Christ was taken away, and they're going to be here when Christ returns. And so that's the wrath of God. It can only be administered by pure hands, okay? Not End Times Teacher, GMS, Sakari, these Hebrews, and all these idiots in the 501c3 church, okay? So don't mess up on that, okay? God's not remixing who he is for these inbreds, these retards, and that kind of thing. So Matthew 5:17, do not think I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. Okay. For truly I say to you, until heaven and earth pass away, not an iota, not a dot will pass from the law until all is accomplished. Okay. Therefore, whoever relaxes one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do the same will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever does them and teaches them will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. Okay. For I tell you, unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and the Pharisees, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Okay? So how is that possible that unrighteous people are going to be in the kingdom? I'm asking these other liars and actors out there, like End Times Teacher, how is that even possible? For I tell you, unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and the Pharisees, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Okay? And so just know the Bible is encoded. Okay? These people, just because you teach the Bible and read it doesn't mean that God wrote it for you. Okay? Just know that. Okay? These people are actors. And so our righteousness has to exceed the scribes and the Pharisees. We can't be here just to embarrass somebody else or one-up them and make them look bad and any of that kind of stuff, okay? I'm talking to the actual people that trust the God of the Bible. Don't get confused, okay? You know, God is going to operate the exact same way that he's done from the beginning in the end, okay? And the two witnesses are the same people that you see in Genesis 18, same two people you see at the Transfiguration, and they're not going to be any two different people that you see in Acts or the same two different people that you're going to see in Revelation. Give me a break, okay? This is simple stuff for people who have an understanding, you know, and understand the heart and mind of God, okay? So we read two accounts in Deuteronomy and John, they're exactly the same, okay? But the righteousness was increased, okay, by the king, the judge, Christ. The righteousness had to have been increased by the people enforcing the laws. So they have to be righteous people. And then the mercy and compassion was also increased. Okay, so these people don't understand the Bible, who are out here trolling the Bible, you know, and all that kind of stuff, talking about the law and all this kind of stuff when they don't keep any of it themselves. Okay, these are disgusting people. Okay, hope everyone's doing well. Bye.